Welcome to the captivating realm of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss any of our exciting new stories. Enjoy the journey.
As Marcus stepped into the grand atrium, the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. The vast space was filled with intricate alien technology, the walls lined with shimmering displays that pulsed with data. Era, the tall alien woman beside him, gestured towards the screens with a sense of pride. "This is our latest advancement in environmental forecasting," she announced, her voice confident. Marcus was taken aback. "This is incredible. Are those algorithms for predicting atmospheric conditions?" Era nodded, clearly pleased with his response. "Just a simple application of our technology. But I suppose humans have their own ways of getting by." Irritation flared within him, but he chose to remain composed. "We may lack your advanced methods, but our adaptability has led to numerous discoveries," Era shrugged, her gaze flicking back to the displays. "Resourcefulness can only take you so far. The universe is vast, and without embracing true advancement, you'll always remain limited." As the demonstration unfolded, Marcus sensed a change in the atmosphere. Other aliens began to notice him, their expressions a mix of curiosity and wariness. He straightened, feeling the weight of their scrutiny. Era continued speaking, but he only partially listened. "Do you believe your kind is ready for the next step? To join the larger galaxy beyond your little blue planet?" Her tone was probing, and Marcus felt the implications in her words. "I think we are eager to learn and grow," he replied cautiously, "but I can't speak for all of humanity." Era's lips curled into a sly grin. "Ah, but that's the crux of it, isn't it? Do you think your species can grow without destroying itself in the process?" Marcus swallowed hard, feeling a surge of emotion. "We've made mistakes, yes, but we've also learned from them. There's hope for us yet." Era regarded him with an unreadable expression. "Hope is fragile. You'll need more than that to make a true impact in this galaxy." Suddenly, a commotion erupted behind them. A group of smaller aliens, similar in design but distinct in coloration, burst into the atrium, visibly agitated. Marcus exchanged a worried glance with Era. "What's happening?" he asked, tension creeping into his voice. Era waved a dismissive hand, her eyes narrowing at the newcomers. "Oh, nothing important. Just our younger generation feeling rebellious." The lead alien among them stepped forward, his blue skin radiating energy. "We demand to know why this intruder is here." His voice echoed through the atrium, drawing everyone's attention. Marcus felt the heat of their gazes burning into him. "I am Marcus, a representative of Earth," he said, trying to sound confident despite the rising anxiety. "I come in peace." The leader's laughter was sharp and cutting. "Peace? From a species that destroys its own planet? Why should we trust you?" Era stepped forward, her posture protective. "Enough, Tevin. This human is under my protection. He brings knowledge and opportunity." Tevin sneered, glancing dismissively at Marcus. "Opportunity? You mean a chance for our species to be exploited by a backward civilization?" "No, thank you." Tension escalated in the atrium, and Marcus felt trapped between their hostility. "Please," he implored, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "I don't wish to harm your world or people. I seek only knowledge and understanding." Era shot him an annoyed look. "You should have learned to read the room, Marcus. You can't expect them to accept you without proof of your worth." Marcus took a deep breath as an idea formed in his mind. "Perhaps I can demonstrate some of Earth's technological advances. A small exhibition, something that showcases our potential for good." A murmur ran through the crowd, curiosity battling suspicion. Tevin remained skeptical. "And what do you propose to show us?" "Your primitive gadgets." "I can create something live," Marcus said, his heart racing. "Something to illustrate our ability to adapt and innovate." He quickly pulled out his tablet, fingers dancing across the screen as he activated a small drone. It whirred to life, floating into the air above them, projecting images of Earth's inventions, renewable energy sources, advanced medical technologies, and sustainable agriculture techniques. The crowd watched in silence, their expressions shifting as the drone showcased each innovation. Marcus felt a swell of hope, perhaps he could break through their distrust. As the presentation unfolded, Ira's eyes sparkled with interest. "Impressive," she admitted. "But can you back up these claims?" "I've seen many machines fall short of their promises," Marcus nodded, feeling the pressure mount. "I have the data to support every claim. If you allow me, I can present it all, scientific papers, videos, even testimonials from experts." The crowd buzzed with excitement. The seeds of curiosity had been planted, but Tevin remained unconvinced. "This is all well and good, but words mean nothing. You want us to believe you? Then put your technology to the test." Marcus's heart sank. "A test? Yes," Tevin replied, crossing his arms defiantly. "Let's see what your precious Earth technology can do. Show us something real, something that proves you're worth our time." The others nodded in agreement, their skepticism palpable. Era regarded him intently. "You'll need to accept this challenge if you want to continue. Do you have what it takes to back up your claims?" Feeling the weight of their gazes, Marcus steeled himself. "I accept. What would you have me demonstrate?" Tevin grinned, revealing pointed teeth. "Let's start with something simple. A task that requires both skill and intelligence, a challenge of strategy. We'll pit your human intellect against ours." The murmurs grew as the aliens discussed among themselves. Era stepped closer, her voice low and conspiratorial. "This could either make or break you, Marcus. Don't underestimate their ingenuity. But I believe you can impress them if you play your cards right." Marcus nodded, determination settling in. "I'll do my best." As Aa's hand brushed against his arm, a jolt of electricity surged through Marcus's body. "Fascinating," she said, her violet eyes locking onto his. A wave of warning bells echoed in his mind. This conversation was heading into precarious territory. He instinctively stepped back, struggling to regain his composure. His heart raced as he attempted to articulate his thoughts. "I think there might be a cultural misunderstanding here," Marcus stammered, trying to assert control. "On Earth, we have protocols for first contact situations. It's essential to maintain professional boundaries." Aa's melodious laughter interrupted him. "Oh, Marcus, always so serious. Relax. I'm merely conducting my own little experiment. Isn't that what scientific exchange is all about?" Before he could respond, she closed the distance between them, her alien scent, a blend of ozone and exotic flowers, overwhelming his senses. He found himself backed against a shimmering wall, Aa's lithe blue form pressing against him. "I think," she purred, her lips mere inches from his. "It's time we conducted a more thorough examination of human physiology. For science, of course." With a blend of surrender and exhilaration, Marcus pulled her close, their lips meeting in a kiss that sent shockwaves through him. What followed was an unforgettable night of passion, unlike anything he had ever experienced. Aa's alien anatomy, while similar in many respects to that of human females, held surprises that left him breathless. They explored one another with equal parts curiosity and desire, their bodies moving together in a transcendent dance that defied the barriers of species. As the alien sun began to rise, casting iridescent light through the crystal structures of the city, Marcus lay entwined with Aa. A mix of euphoria and creeping dread churned within him. "That was unexpected," he murmured, still processing the night's events. Aa stretched languidly beside him, a satisfied smile gracing her lips. "Indeed, you've proven to be a most fascinating subject, Marcus of Earth. I look forward to many more experiments." The days that followed blurred into a whirlwind of diplomatic meetings, cultural exchanges, and secret encounters with Aa. Despite his initial reservations, he couldn't deny the deepening connection between them. Nearly 2 weeks into his stay on Zeta 9, he began to notice a shift in the attitudes of Aa's friends, Nera, Denaya, and Mia. Gone were the mocking jabs and dismissive glances. Now, they regarded him with a mixture of curiosity and what almost seemed like respect. One evening, as Marcus sat with the 4 alien women in a luxurious lounge overlooking the city, Nara leaned in close. "So, Marcus," she said in a sultry voice, "AA has been keeping you all to herself, hasn't she? Don't you think it's time you shared some of that Earth culture with the rest of us?" Marcus nearly choked on his drink. "What?" Mia giggled, her spiky hair bristling with excitement. "Oh, come on. We've all heard about your cultural exchanges with AA. It's only fair that we get to experience it too. For science, of course." Denaya nodded in agreement, her braids swaying. "After all, a proper study requires multiple data points, doesn't it?" Marcus's mind raced. He glanced at AA, seeking help, but found only amusement dancing in her violet eyes. "Don't look so shocked, Marcus," she purred. "I told you we Zetans have a very open approach to scientific inquiry. Besides, I'm curious to see how you handle multiple subjects." Thus began a week of passionate encounters that tested Marcus's stamina and challenged his understanding of interspecies relations. Each alien woman brought her own unique approach to their experiments, leaving him exhilarated yet exhausted. As the days passed, however, a growing sense of unease crept in. This wasn't why he had come to Zeta 9, his mission was to establish diplomatic relations, not to engage in interstellar liaisons. Guilt gnawed at him, even as he found himself unable to resist the charms of the alien women. Nearly a month into his stay, everything came to a head during a formal meeting with Zetan officials. Suddenly, AA burst into the room, her usual composure shattered. "Marcus," she gasped, her blue skin several shades paler than normal. "We need to talk." Now, excusing himself, Marcus followed AA to a private chamber where Nara, Denaya, and Mia awaited, all looking equally shaken. "What's going on?" Marcus asked. Dread settling in his stomach, AA took a deep breath, her violet eyes meeting his with an intensity that sent shivers down his spine. "Marcus, there's no easy way to say this, so I'll just say it, we're pregnant." All of us, the world tilted beneath Marcus's feet. He staggered, gripping a nearby table for support. That's impossible. We're different species. How could this happen?" Nara stepped forward, her playful demeanor replaced by somber seriousness. "It seems that human and Zetan biology are more compatible than we ever imagined. Our scientists are baffled, but the evidence is undeniable. We are carrying hybrid offspring." Denaya rested a protective hand over her stomach. "The first of their kind in the known universe." Marcus's mind raced, struggling to comprehend the implications of this revelation. His actions had not only affected him and these 4 women but had the potential to alter the course of 2 civilizations. "What do we do now?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. Mia let out a nervous laugh. "Well, I guess that depends on you, doesn't it? Are you ready to be a father 4 times over?" As the gravity of the situation settled in, Marcus realized that his mission of peaceful first contact had become infinitely more complicated. The future of Earth-Zetan relations now hinged not only on diplomatic negotiations but on the unborn children growing within these 4 alien women. With a deep breath, Marcus straightened his shoulders. Whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing for certain: nothing would ever be the same again. The news of this unprecedented pregnancy spread through Zeta 9 like wildfire, igniting a firestorm of controversy that threatened to engulf everything Marcus had worked for. Standing before the Zetan High Council, he faced a sea of alien expressions: shock, curiosity, and barely concealed outrage. "Human," the chief counselor's voice boomed, his translator struggling to convey the depth of his emotion. "Do you understand the gravity of what you've done?" Marcus swallowed hard, acutely aware of the 4 blue-skinned women standing behind him. "Counselor, I assure you this was not my intention. We had no idea our species were compatible in this way." "Vulnerability acknowledged, Counsel. I take full responsibility for initiating this experiment. The human cannot be held solely accountable." A murmur spread through the gathered crowd. Marcus shot Era a grateful glance, surprised by her sudden defense. The chief counselor's eyes narrowed. Regardless of intention, the fact remains that we now face an unprecedented situation. These hybrid offspring could pose a threat to the very fabric of our society. Or, interjected another counselor, her voice laced with excitement, they could represent the next step in our evolution. Think of the potential. The chamber erupted into heated debate. Marcus felt overwhelmed as he tried to follow the rapid-fire alien dialogue. Phrases like genetic contamination and evolutionary leap flew around with increasing fervor. Suddenly, commotion at the back of the chamber drew everyone's attention. A group of Zetans in elaborate robes pushed their way forward, led by a tall figure with undulating head tentacles, heretics. The leader shouted, pointing an accusing finger at Marcus and the four women. This abomination goes against all our sacred teachings. The prophecies warn of such contamination, it will bring nothing but ruin. Another faction surged forward, their attire sharp, suggesting they were scientists or academics. Nonsense. Their spokesperson countered. This is an unprecedented opportunity for genetic advancement. We cannot let superstition stand in the way of progress. The chamber descended into chaos. Marcus felt a hand on his arm and turned to see Nera, her eyes wide with fear. Marcus, she whispered, I don't think it's safe for us here anymore. He nodded grimly, scanning the room for potential exits. But before they could move, the chief counselor's voice cut through the din, silence. He roared, the force of his command reverberating through the chamber. This situation requires careful consideration. Until we can determine the full implications of these pregnancies, the human and the affected females will be placed under protective custody. Marcus's heart sank. Protective custody? You mean imprisonment? The chief counselor's alien features twisted into what might have been a sympathetic expression. Think of it as a precautionary measure for your safety as well as ours. As they were led away by guards, Marcus caught AA's eye. The look they shared spoke volumes. Whatever came next, they were in this together. The following days blurred together, filled with medical examinations, interrogations, and tense confinement. Marcus paced the small apartment that served as their gilded cage, his mind racing with possibilities and fears. AA watched him from a sculpted chair, her hand absently rubbing her still flat stomach. You're going to wear a hole in the floor if you keep that up, she quipped, a shadow of her old humor creeping into her voice. Marcus paused, running a hand through his disheveled hair. How can you be so calm? We're prisoners, Era. Out there, he gestured toward the window overlooking the alien cityscape, half the planet wants us dead while the other half wants to dissect us. AA rose gracefully to stand before him. And the other half? She asked, a hint of playfulness in her tone. Despite everything, Marcus replied, a smile tugging at his lips. That's three halves. Era shrugged, a very human gesture she'd picked up from him. Maybe Zetan math is different from Earth math. The point is, not everyone out there is against us. We have allies. As if on cue, the door slid open, revealing Nera, Denaya, and Mia. They entered quickly, their faces a mix of excitement and apprehension. We've got news. Mia announced, her spiky hair seeming to bristle with energy. Denaya nodded, her elaborate braids swaying. The scientific community is in an uproar. They're demanding access to study our pregnancies, while the religious factions are calling for our immediate execution, Nera added dryly. So, you know, the usual. Marcus sank onto a nearby couch, his head in his hands. This is a nightmare. I came here to establish peaceful relations between our worlds, not spark an interplanetary crisis. Era sat beside him, her cool blue hand finding his. Perhaps this is exactly what is needed to truly bring our worlds together. Nothing unites like a common cause or a common enemy. Marcus looked up, meeting her violet eyes. He saw strength and determination that rekindled his own resolve. You're right, he said, straightening. We need a plan, a way to show both our peoples that this isn't a threat but an opportunity. The five of them huddled together, their voices low as they began to strategize. As the alien sun set outside their window, casting the room in shimmering otherworldly light, Marcus felt a glimmer of hope. They were creating something entirely new. Not just in terms of their unborn children but in the bonds forming between them. Weeks passed, marked by growing tension both within their confinement and in the world outside. Marcus's body clock struggled to adjust to the longer Zetan days, leaving him in a constant state of mild jet lag. But that was the least of his worries. The women's pregnancies progressed at an alarming rate, their bodies changing in ways that baffled both Zetan and human medical science. Hera, always the first to face challenges head-on, embraced the changes with a mix of scientific fascination and maternal pride. "Feel this," she said one evening, grabbing Marcus's hand and placing it on her swollen belly. A series of rapid movements pulsed against his palm, unlike anything he'd felt before. "Is that?" he began, his voice filled with wonder. Hera nodded, a rare genuine smile lighting up her face. "Our child. He or she seems to have inherited your restless nature." Marcus laughed, a sound that felt foreign after weeks of stress and uncertainty. "Let's hope they've inherited your brains and beauty to balance it out." A comfortable silence fell between them, broken only by the soft sounds of the other women sleeping nearby. In moments like these, Marcus could almost forget the precariousness of their situation. But reality had a way of intruding. The next morning brought news that shattered their fragile peace. "They're coming for us," Nera announced, bursting into the common area where they'd gathered for breakfast. Her usual cool demeanor was shaken, fear evident in her eyes. Marcus was on his feet in an instant. "Who? The council?" Nera shook her head. "Worse. A radical faction has broken away from the main religious group. They're calling themselves the Purifiers, and they've vowed to cleanse Zeta 9 of our abominations." Panic rippled through the room. Mia clutched her swollen belly protectively while Denia began pacing, her braids swaying agitatedly. Hera, ever the voice of reason, cut through the chaos. "How much time do we have?" "Not much," Nera replied grimly. "Our inside sources say they're mobilizing now. The official security forces are scrambling to respond, but they might not make it in time." Marcus's mind raced. He turned to AA, seeing the same determination in her eyes that he felt. "We need to get you all out of here. Somewhere safe." Hera nodded, already moving toward the hidden panel where they had stashed emergency supplies. "I know a place, an old research facility in the mountains. It's isolated and defensible." Marcus grabbed a bag quickly, stuffing it with medical supplies and nutrient packs. "It'll have to do, but how do we get there? We're still under guard." A sly smile spread across Mia's face, her earlier fear replaced by a familiar mischievous glint. "Leave that to me. I didn't spend my youth sneaking out of the education centers without learning a few tricks." What followed was a daring escape that would make any action hero proud. Mia's tricks turned out to involve a combination of hacked security systems, improvised smoke bombs, and a stolen hover vehicle that none of them really knew how to pilot. As they sped away from the city, alarms blaring in the distance, Marcus couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. Here he was, a diplomat turned fugitive, fleeing across. In an alien landscape, for pregnant women who just months ago had regarded him as an inferior species were now with him. "What's so funny?" Hera shouted over the roaring wind, her hair whipping wildly as she gripped the controls of their vehicle. Marcus shook his head, unable to suppress a grin despite the peril they faced. "Just thinking about how I'll explain all of this in my mission report." Their moment of levity was short-lived, though, as sleek, ominous crafts appeared on the horizon, closing in rapidly. "The Purifiers." Nera gasped, her face draining of color. "They've found us." Marcus's mind raced, weighing their options. The mountain facility was still hours away, and their stolen vehicle was no match for the speed of their pursuers. "Look!" Denaya shouted, pointing to a narrow canyon ahead. "We can lose them in there." Era nodded grimly, steering the hover vehicle toward the treacherous passage. "Hang on tight, everyone. This is going to be bumpy." As they plunged into the canyon, laser fire from the pursuers zipped past them. Marcus felt a surge of protective instinct like never before. These women, Nera, Denaya, and Mia, and the children they carried were now his responsibility, his family. With determination, he turned to face their pursuers, crafting a weapon from the vehicle's spare parts. He might not be a soldier, but he wouldn't let anyone harm his newfound loved ones. What followed would be recounted for generations on Zeta 9, a rickety hover vehicle carrying the most controversial passengers in planetary history. Evading sleek military crafts through twisting canyons and perilous terrain. As laser blasts lit the alien sky and the wind howled around them, Marcus realized his mission of peaceful first contact had transformed into something deeply personal and profound. Regardless of the outcome, he knew his life, and the futures of both Earth and Zeta 9, would never be the same. The canyon walls blurred past as Era piloted their battered vehicle with surprising skill. Marcus clutched the makeshift weapon he'd fashioned, his eyes darting between the treacherous path ahead and the pursuing crafts. "We can't keep this up forever." Nera shouted over the wind, worry etched on her face. "The vehicle's energy reserves are critically low." Marcus's mind raced. They needed a plan fast. Suddenly, inspiration struck Era. "Does that research facility have a communication array?" she asked. "Yes," Era nodded, narrowing her violet eyes in understanding. "But it's old technology." "Why?" A grim smile spread across Marcus's face. "Because it's time to take our story public. If we can't outrun them, we'll outsmart them with the truth." As if on cue, the hover vehicle sputtered, its engines whining. Era guided them into a hidden alcove as the pursuers screamed overhead. "We're out of options." Denaya panted, protectively cradling her belly. "It's now or never." Marcus nodded, resolve hardening. "Here's the plan." What followed was a daring dash across the alien landscape. The five of them moved as quickly as the women's pregnancies allowed, using the rocky terrain for concealment. Marcus's diplomatic training had never prepared him for this, but a newfound strength drove him forward. As they crested a final ridge, the research facility came into view, a squat structure nestled against the mountainside. "There it is." Era breathed, relief mixed with apprehension. "Our last hope." Cautiously, they approached, wary of traps or hidden defenses. The facility appeared truly abandoned, a relic of Zetan scientific exploration. Inside, layers of dust-coated advanced equipment Marcus could only guess at the purpose of, but his focus was solely on one thing, the communications array. "It hasn't been used in years," Mia muttered, her fingers dancing over the controls. "But I think, yes. We have power." Marcus stepped up to the transmitter, heart pounding. This was their chance to change the narrative, to appeal to the better nature of both societies. He took a deep breath and began to speak. "People of Zeta 9, people of Earth, my name is Marcus Chen, and I come to you not as a diplomat, not as a human, but as a father-to-be of children who represent the future of both our worlds." His words flowed with passion and eloquence that surprised even him. He spoke of the fear and prejudice that had brought them to this point, but also of the hope and potential their unborn children represented. He challenged both societies to look beyond their differences and see the beauty in this unprecedented union of two species. As he spoke, something remarkable happened. The facility's long-dormant systems sprang to life, broadcasting not just his voice but holographic images of their harrowing journey. The people of Zeta 9, and even those on Earth, watched as their story unfolded. They saw the tender moments between Marcus and the women, the fear and excitement surrounding the pregnancies, and the daring escape from those who would harm them. Most powerfully, they witnessed the love and protective instinct that had driven Marcus to risk everything for his newfound family. As Marcus's impassioned speech concluded, a heavy silence filled the facility. For a moment, he feared it had all been for nothing. Then, the communication array crackled to life, and messages began pouring in from across Zeta 9 and even Earth, messages of support, understanding, and hope for this new chapter in interspecies relations. AA's cool hand slipped into his, squeezing gently. "You did it," she whispered, emotion thick in her voice. "You changed everything." The following days were a whirlwind of activity. The Zetan government, responding to overwhelming public pressure, called off the pursuit and granted Marcus and the women protected status. Scientists and medical professionals from both worlds gathered at the facility, eager to study and assist with the unprecedented pregnancies. As the women's due dates approached, Marcus found himself at the center of a media frenzy unlike anything either world had ever seen. But through it all, his focus remained on AA, Nera, Denaya, and Mia, and the miraculous lives growing within them. One particularly tense evening, as Era paced their shared quarters, her belly seeming to defy gravity, Marcus approached her with a tentative smile. "What's on your mind?" he asked, using the Zetan phrase he'd learned. Era paused, her violet eyes meeting his. "I was just thinking about how much has changed. When we first met, I thought you were merely a primitive curiosity. And now?" Marcus chuckled, wrapping his arms around her as best he could with her belly between them. "Now you're carrying my alien love child. Life is funny that way." Era's laughter, a sound that always warmed his heart, filled the room. "Indeed, though I still think Zetan biology is superior. Our children will benefit from your quaint human traits." "Oh really?" Marcus raised an eyebrow, mischief in his eyes. Care to test that theory? Their playful banter was interrupted by a sharp gasp from Era. Her eyes widened as she looked down at the puddle forming at her feet. "Marcus," she breathed, a mix of excitement and fear in her voice, "I think it's time." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Medical teams rushed to prepare for the first-ever births of human Zetan hybrids. Marcus found himself darting between AA's side and checking on the other women, all of whom went into labor within hours of each other. As the first cries of new life filled the air, Marcus felt a wave of emotion like he'd never known. He looked down at the tiny being in AA's arms, unmistakably alien with its blue-tinged skin, yet with eyes that were undeniably his. "She's perfect," Era whispered, her usual composure cracking as tears of joy streamed down her face. Marcus could only nod, overwhelmed. One by one, the other women gave birth, each child a unique blend of human and Zetan features. As he held his daughter, their daughter, Marcus marveled at the miracle they had created. News of the successful birth spread like wildfire across both worlds. What had once been seen as a potential threat was now celebrated as a new dawn for both species. The children became symbols of hope, representing the potential for harmony between different peoples. Months passed, and the day of the official presentation ceremony arrived. Marcus stood on a stage before a sea of faces, both blue-skinned Zetans and a delegation from Earth. AA, Nera, Denaya, and Mia stood beside him, each cradling their precious bundles. As Marcus stepped up to the podium, he felt the weight of two worlds on his shoulders. But as he looked out at the expectant faces, he felt a surge of hope for the future. "Friends, colleagues, fellow beings of this vast universe," he began, his voice strong and clear, "today we stand at the threshold of a new era. These children represent not just the union of two species, but the infinite potential that lies in embracing our differences." His speech, broadcast to billions across two worlds, emphasized unity, compassion, and the strength found in diversity. "Let us honor their existence by forging a future where love transcends barriers, where understanding is our greatest weapon against ignorance, and where every life, no matter how small or different, is valued." As he finished, the crowd erupted in cheers, and Marcus felt a swell of pride and gratitude. The future was uncertain, but with his family by his side and the weight of hope behind him, he was ready to face it. In that moment, he realized they were no longer just symbols, they were pioneers, leading the way toward a future that had once seemed impossible.